The thrill of dropping into a 70, 80, even 90-foot wave is an obsession. They train their bodies to handle the extreme. They prepare their minds for the brutal wipeouts, and when the moment comes, they take the drop. Today, we're counting down 11 of the biggest waves ever surfed. These waves have shattered records, defied expectations, and pushed the limits of what's possible. But even as the records fall, one question remains. Has anyone actually surfed a true 100-foot wave? By the end of this video, we might just have the answer.
I can't live without surf.
Hopefully the biggest waves in the world.
There's definitely a lot of energy in the ocean.
There are wipeouts, and then there are the ones that go down in history. Brock Little's 1990 wave at Waimea Bay was the latter. The quicksilver in memory of Eddie Aikau was on, meaning the North Pacific had delivered something worthy of the legend it honored. Waimea was flexing at full capacity, 50-foot faces detonating in deep water, unloading with the weight of a collapsing building. The kind of waves that demand full commitment. Little didn't hesitate. He paddled into one of the heaviest waves of the day, dropped in deep and set his line. But Waimea had other plans, the white water swallowing him whole. It was the kind of hold down that makes you question everything. Most would have taken the beating and called it a day. Brock wasn't most, but when he finally surfaced, he shook it off like it was just another day in the lineup. Because for big wave riders, it's never just about surviving the moment. It's about chasing the next one. That moment didn't just cement his place in big wave history, it defined what it means to charge Waimea Bay.
And I remember looking at the lip coming over and I'm like, oh boy. And then, actually I remember like I had like a little thing of, you know, being in my mom's arms. Like you have that kind of flash. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die here. But I got a breath. I got to my board, put on my leash, went back out. And like, even some of the competitors were looking at me like, you know, you got to screw loose. You know,
Puerto Escondido isn't just Mexico's heaviest wave. It's one of the most ferocious beach breaks on the planet. When the right swell slams into the deep water canyon off the coast of Puerto, the result is towering, hollow monsters detonating on a shallow sandbar. There's no escape route, no safety net, just raw, unfiltered power. In May 2015, a historic south swell roared into Puerto, stacking up 50-foot-plus pyramids that looked like something out of a doomsday film. Healy had built a career on fearlessness, but even for him, this was pushing the limits. He stroked into a massive set wave, free-falling down the face as the entire ocean shifted behind him. Healy stuck the drop. He threaded one of the biggest barrels ever attempted at Puerto, then got obliterated on the exit. The wipeout was intense.
To read what the wave was going to do before I made a final move and really committed to a line. And I noticed that instead of
slammed onto the sandbar, swallowed by the rip, held down for what felt like eternity. But he surfaced, laughing, because that's what separates big wave riders from everyone else. They don't just survive these moments, they live for them. Some waves are immortalized, recorded, measured, and analyzed from every angle. Others remain just beyond the reach of official history.
the biggest day I've ever seen previous to that. So that's something super rare. We might not even see that in our lifetimes again.
Ken Bradshaw's 1998 wave at Outer Log Cabins is one of those. That winter, the North Shore was under siege.
Decision by letting the first couple waves go through, we started into it as it's building behind us, and I kept motioning to Dan. This is it. This is the one.
A deep Pacific storm had sent one of the biggest swells of the decade toward Hawaii, and while most surfers focused on the usual big wave spots, Bradshaw went looking for something different. He found it at Outer Log Cabins, a deepwater reef that rarely breaks, but when it does, unleashes raw power, fast, thick, and unpredictable. Bradshaw towed into a 60-foot slab, a wave that looked less like a rideable face and more like an open ocean landslide. He locked in, let go of the rope, and the rest was history. Some claim it was the biggest wave ever ridden at the time, though without an official measurement, it remains a ride of mythic proportions, one of those waves that live somewhere between fact and legend. 100 miles off the California coast, in the middle of nowhere, lies Cortes Bank, an underwater mountain that peaks just below the ocean's surface. When the right swell detonates over this submerged mountain, it creates waves unlike anywhere else on Earth.
Ran. Oh no, we got somebody on it.
Open ocean giants rolling in from deep water at full force. In January 2008, a monster North Pacific storm sent one of the largest swells in history toward Cortes. A select crew of big wave pioneers, including Mike Parsons, made the journey by boat, braving the unpredictable conditions that make this spot as dangerous as it is legendary. When the biggest set of the day appeared on the horizon, Parsons was in position. Towed into a 75-foot behemoth, he raced down the face at speeds pushing 50 miles per hour, barely outrunning the avalanche of whitewater behind him. It wasn't just a big wave, it was a wall of deep blue moving with the force of a freight train. Parsons made the drop, rode clean, and escaped the chaos behind him. At the time, it was the biggest wave ever ridden, setting a new world record. Cortes Bank had delivered, and Parsons had etched his name into big wave history. Big wave surfing doesn't care who you are. It only rewards those willing to charge headfirst into the unknown.
The size of the waves that day were the biggest waves I've ever seen. The drop just never ended. It was just down, 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 down. That was really bumpy, and my board cavitated a little, and I started to slide back up a little, and then keep going. And I kicked out. The wave hit me, and I made it and kicked out. And Greg Long came up to me on the ski, just screaming and yelling, saying that was unbelievable. I've never seen a wave that big, and it was pretty darn exciting.
Justine Dupont has built a career doing exactly that. By 2023, she had already conquered Nazaré and Jaws, but Cortes Bank was different. A deepwater beast, unpredictable, raw, and rarely surfed. On January 13, 2023, Dupont found herself in the middle of the Pacific, staring down a wave that only a handful of people had ever ridden. A storm deep in the North Pacific had sent one of the biggest swells of the year to Cortes, and she wasn't about to sit it out. Towed into a towering 75-footer. This wasn't just a record-breaking ride, it was a statement. Dupont wasn't chasing validation. She was rewriting the history of big wave surfing, proving that Cortes Bank belonged to whoever had the guts to take it on. By 2011, Nazaré was barely on the map as a big wave spot. Surfers had seen the massive swells breaking along Portugal's rugged coastline, but few believed it could be ridden. The waves at Nazaré weren't just big, they were chaotic, unpredictable, and unlike anything else in the world. McNamara had spent his career chasing the world's heaviest waves. From Jaws to Mavericks, he had built a reputation as someone willing to ride where others hesitated. But even for him, Nazaré was a complete unknown. The wave was fueled by a deep-water canyon just offshore, an underwater trench that amplified swells into towering peaks. The challenge wasn't just size, it was figuring out how to survive the madness. On November 1, 2011, the Atlantic delivered. A massive groundswell sent one of the biggest waves ever recorded steaming toward Nazaré's cliffs. McNamara, towed in position,
I saw myself making it. I could feel that I was gonna make it. I knew I was making it. And
let go of the rope and committed. The 78-foot wave reared, crashing over with the weight of a collapsing skyscraper. He set his line, carving down the face as the massive wave tried to chase him down. The moment was captured on film, and within days it was everywhere. Nazaré had officially arrived. The Guinness World Record soon confirmed it as the biggest wave ever surfed at the time, and McNamara became the face of a break that would soon redefine big wave surfing. What was once a mystical, unexplored anomaly had now become the premier stage for record-breaking waves, and Nazaré was just getting started. By 2017, Nazaré was the spot for the biggest waves ever surfed. If a record was going to be broken, it would happen here. Rodrigo knew that. He had taken plenty of heavy beatings at Nazaré, but he kept coming back. On November 8th, everything lined up. The swell had been building for days. A massive North Atlantic storm had sent waves straight into the canyon, and the numbers were looking big. Rodrigo was ready. He got towed into position, dropped in, and right away, it was clear this wasn't just another wave. It was bigger, faster. The drop felt like free fall. He adjusted, locked in, and kept his eyes down the line. Any mistake would have meant the beating of a lifetime. He held his line and outran it. It felt big, but how big? The surf world debated it for months. Then, Guinness World Records made it official. 80 feet. The biggest wave ever surfed at the time. For Rodrigo, it was more than just a number. It was proof that years of taking beatings, getting back up, and charging again had paid off. He had the record. for now.
And I cannot forget this time. It was the best time because I got the shoulder and then I kick out the wave, almost make another section. In the end, catch me, but it was done.
By 2020, Maya Gaber had already been through more at Nazaré than most surfers ever will. 7 years earlier, she nearly drowned here. She was knocked unconscious, took a brutal hold down, and had to be revived on the beach. Most people wouldn't have come back. She did. That day in February 2020, Nazaré was pumping. A huge winter swell filled in, and the conditions were clean. Gaber got towed into position, let go of the rope, and dropped into what would become the biggest wave ever ridden by a woman. She took the drop, trusted her line, and made it to the shoulder. Months later, Guinness World Records made it official, 73.5 feet. Not only did she break her own record, but she also rode a wave bigger than any of the men did in competition that year. This wasn't just a record, it was a statement. After nearly losing everything at Nazaré, she came back, charged harder than ever, and rewrote history. By 2024, Lucas Chumbo Chianca had already proven himself as one of the most fearless surfers at Nazaré. He had ridden some of the biggest, heaviest waves the break had ever seen. The swell had been building for days, the kind of system that made everyone pay attention. When the biggest set of the day rolled in, Chumbo was in position and found himself staring down a wave that looked bigger than anything he had ever ridden. Lucas let go of the rope. The wave kept stacking as he dropped in, the bottom seeming farther away with every second. It looked impossible to outrun, but he did. He reached the shoulder and bailed just as the lip came down on him. When the footage hit the surf world, the speculation started. How big was it? Measurements were being analyzed, and many believed it had passed the 90-foot mark, possibly the biggest wave paddled or towed that season. Whether or not the record is official, one thing is clear. Chumbo has cemented himself as one of the greatest big wave surfers of this era.
I don't want to miss any big swell in Nazaré because maybe the biggest wave of my life is coming. So I was having that feeling, Show wave, and for sure made all my day.
In October 2020, German surfer Sebastian Steudtner wrote himself into the history books at Nazaré. The conditions that day were exactly what big wave surfers dream of. A deep North Atlantic storm had sent a massive swell toward the canyon, and the lineup was primed for something historic. As the wave hit the canyon's shallow zone, Steudtner was in position and dropped into what looked like a moving mountain towering at 86 feet, 26.21 meters. There was no margin for error. One misstep and he'd be swallowed whole. This wasn't just another epic ride at Nazaré, it was one that would soon be recognized around the world. Guinness World Records later confirmed it, the biggest wave ever surfed. His achievement didn't just set a new mark in big wave history, it reinforced Nazaré's reputation as the home of the largest, most powerful waves on the planet. Steudtner's ride stands as a monument to human willpower and the never-ending pursuit of pushing what's possible in the ocean. The question now, how much bigger can they go?
As I'm dropping like halfway down the face, a huge backwash comes out to sea. It landed on the tail of my board, span me around, it landed on my neck. The next wave was really violent, just white water, pretty close to the cliff.
On December 23, 2024, 23-year-old Alessandro Slebir from Santa Cruz, California, potentially rode into the record books at Mavericks near Half Moon Bay. A massive storm originating near Japan had sent a historic swell toward the California coast, creating conditions that veteran surfers describe as once in a lifetime. Partnering with tow-in specialist Luca Padua, Slebir was towed into a colossal wave estimated at 108 feet, 32.9 meters. Eyewitnesses, including Mavericks pioneer Jeff Clark, were astounded by the unprecedented size of the wave, with Clark suggesting it could surpass existing records. The current official record for the largest wave ever surfed is 86 feet, set by Sebastian Steudtner at Nazaré in 2020. If Slebir's wave measurement is validated through meticulous photogrammetry analysis, it would not only shatter the existing record, but also further establish Mavericks as one of the world's premier big wave breaks, a spot that has long delivered some of the heaviest rides in history. While Nazaré holds the current record, this wave could reinforce Mavericks' legacy as one of the heaviest waves on the planet. Slebir, who has been surfing Mavericks since his early teens, expressed a mix of exhilaration and humility following the ride. While the surfing community eagerly awaits official confirmation, there's no doubt that this monumental wave has solidified Slebir's status among the elite in big wave surfing. The 100-foot wave isn't just a number, it's the holy grail of big wave surfing. Every winter, the world's best paddle and tow surfers return to Nazaré, Mavericks, and Jaws, watching the charts, waiting for the perfect storm.
They're memorable for a fact, and because you visually get to see that wave engulf you. But yeah, that wave in particular, I just noticed the speed, right? Like going that fast on a surfboard is pretty remarkable.
Technology is changing the game. Advanced forecasting, AI-driven wave tracking, and Porsche-engineered measurement systems are making it easier than ever to pinpoint the biggest swells. Jet skis are faster, safety vests are stronger, and surfers are training harder. Every piece of the puzzle is coming together, but one question remains. Could a surfer actually ride a 100-foot wave and make it? Now, we might finally have an answer. Alessandro rode what many believe was a 100-foot wave at Mavericks. The footage is being analyzed, measurements are being debated, and if confirmed, it would shatter the previous 86-foot record set by Sebastian Steudtner. For years, all eyes were on Nazaré to produce the first official 100-footer, but now, Mavericks may be the place where history was made. And the surfers chasing these waves? Their stories are just as intense as the rides themselves. For more on the athletes who are pushing the limits of surfing, check out some of our other videos. But until the final measurement is confirmed, the question still lingers. Has the 100-foot barrier truly been broken? Whether it's this wave or the next massive swell at Nazaré, one thing is certain, it's only a matter of time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and let us know down in the comments what is the biggest wave you have ever surfed.